What I know about it, or what I think it is, it's like when you you're born like a female or a male, and then you want to like change your gender and like get surgery done and like become, the opposite sex. And so that's what I think it is.
I think it's the same thing. So if you're born a man and then you feel like you're born a woman, they become a woman. But God made you a man, so
Say that.
Gender identity is where people are born male but think they're a girl, and then
Like a transvestite.
yeah, and then it's like if you're born a girl, they think they're a guy.
But it's obviously, I don't believe it.
How do you not know?
Yeah, like
if
you,
you're-
I mean, it's pretty obvious.
I mean, last time I checked, I'm a guy.
I'm a guy too.
So what do I feel
what's your
about
opinion on it?
opinion on gender identification? Well, I think God gives you what He's given you for a reason, and you should take what He's given you and go with it. You shouldn't try to pretend to be something else. You don't see dogs trying to be cats and cats trying to be dogs. You know what I'm saying? So you should be yourself, be true to yourself, and do what God intended for you.
My opinion on gender identity, God created us who He wanted us to be, and it's not for me to judge what another person may feel was going on inside them. So, I mean, I just accept them for who they are.
So, how do I feel about transgenders and transvestites? Well, I believe that, yeah, I don't know what to say.
Okay, so the first question that needs to be answered is what exactly is gender identity disorder, also known as gender dysphoria or GID? And according to the World Health Organization, the medical definition of GID is the psychological diagnosis gender identity disorder used to describe a male or female that feels a strong identification with the opposite sex and experiences considerable distress because of their actual sex. In high school terms, that basically means men and women who are born as either a man or woman feel that they are either emotionally, mentally, or in their mind supposed to be the opposite sex. So if a man feels that he is supposed to be a woman, or if a woman feels that she is supposed to be a man. According to the World Health Organization, there is no official cause of gender identity disorder, but symptoms do include a repeatedly stated desire to be or insistence that he or she is the opposite sex, a preference for cross-dressing, a strong and lasting preference to play make-believe and role-playing games as a member of the opposite sex, or persistent fantasies that he or she is the opposite sex, and a strong preference for friends and playmates of the opposite sex. Gender identity disorder is an actual disorder. It is not a term coined for the use of a certain feeling. It is actually a disorder, and it is typically diagnosed by a psychiatrist or a psychologist who conducts an interview with the patient and takes a detailed social history. So you do have to, in fact, be diagnosed with gender identity disorder to claim to have it. Family members may also be interviewed during the assessment process. This evaluation usually takes place in an outpatient setting. So it is an actual medical term, unlike the common knowledge. Maybe people just, I think a lot of the people think that it just has to do with, like, I think I'm a man or I think I'm a woman, where it's the opposite. But it is an actual physical and mental disorder. In modern culture, the debate on this topic comes between the terms sex and gender. According to the WHO Gender, Women, and Health Organization, the difference between the word sex and the word gender is as follows. Sex refers to the biological and physiological characteristics that define men and women. And gender refers to the socially constructed roles, behaviors, activities, and attributes that a given society considers appropriate for men and women. So to put it another way, male and female are sex categories, while masculine and feminine are gender categories. Aspects of sex will not vary substantially between different human societies, while aspects of gender may vary. So all that being said, basically, if you think about it, the word sex and the terms that relate to the word sex are based off of physical body, genitalia, and how you were physically born, what chromosomes make up your DNA, etc. And the term gender refers to the society's stereotypes of gender. Example for females, the female gender types can be considered things like delicacy and housekeeping and raising children, etc. And while a masculine stereotype might be strong, muscular, providing for family, etc. Okay, so logically speaking, there are two ways that a person suffering from gender identity disorder can go about to fix the problem. The first is to change the person's thinking so that they accept their genetic gender. Our scientific knowledge of the workings of the human brain are not developed to the point where this is possible. It may never be. A full range of therapies have been tried in an attempt to cure GID. There has allegedly been not a single cure during many decades of attempts. Attempting to change the thinking of transgender persons does not appear to be a safe or attractive path, and this is seen in the mass suicide rate in transgendered people, claimed to be about 50% by some. The other option is to change the person's physical appearance to match their perceived gender. In this way, a woman who felt trapped in a man's body can be altered to appear to be female through hormone therapy and perhaps gender reassignment surgery. Similarly, a man who felt trapped in a woman's body could pass as a man. Their perceived gender and their physical appearance become harmonized. The vast majority who try this path are pleased with the changes. This is the most common path used by people today. Now, where does the Catholic Church come in with all of this, and what is their opinion on transsexuality and gender identity disorder? A Vatican II document titled Pastoral Constitution on the Church in the Modern World states, "Man, though made of body and soul, is a unity. Through his very bodily condition, he sums up in himself the elements of the material world. Through him, they are thus brought to their highest perfection and can raise their voice in praise freely given to the Creator. For this reason, man may not despise his bodily life. Rather, he is obliged to regard his body as good and to hold it in honor, since God has created it and will raise it up on the last day." So when applied to transsexuality, this document implies that a person with gender identity disorder must accept their body as it is, and to surgically modify their body would be a serious sin. The Catholic Catechism, item 2297, states, "Except when performed for strictly therapeutic medical reason, directly intended amputations, mutilations, and sterilizations performed on an innocent person are against the moral law." So, physically, the process of sexual reassignment surgery involves major changes. For example, a male to female transsexual involves removal of the penis, testicles, and scrotum. It involves hormone treatment and perhaps surgery to enlarge the breasts, removing part of the Adam's apple and/or changing the shape of the face. For a female to male transsexual, this surgery involves the surgical removal of the breasts, uterus, ovaries, and hormone treatment. This is referred to as a radical and grotesque mutilation of the body, to destroy organs purposefully that are healthy and functioning, and to try and create imitation organs which will never have the genuineness and functioning of authentic organs is gross and lacks charity. Such surgery which purposely destroys the bodily integrity of the person must be condemned. This is a statement by Father Sanders, who is a prominent Catholic priest who speaks often on the teachings of the Catholic Church and transsexuality. In late 2008, Pope Benedict XVI gave a speech saying that our gender was a gift from God. He denounced those who would try changing it. He said, quote, "It is a question here of faith in the Creator and of listening to the language of creation, the devaluation of which leads to the self-destruction of man and therefore to the destruction of the same work of God." End quote. In 2003, a document was released from the Vatican to papal representatives in each country. It was supposed to be a secret, titled Sub Secretum, which is secret in Latin, I'm assuming, or Italian, I'm not really sure. But anyway, it became so widely spread that it was officially discussed in the Catholic news services at the end of 2003. It states that bishops must never alter the gender listed in baptismal records to match the individual's new gender identity. Also, persons undergoing sex reassignment surgery are not eligible to marry, to be ordained into the priesthood, or to enter religious life. Also, it states, the key point is that the transsexual surgical operation is so superficial and external that it does not change the personality. If the person was born male, he remains male. And if she was born female, she remains female. According to the Catholic News Service, the document seems to regard transsexuals as being mentally ill, unstable, and mentally incompetent. This article states that the gender reassignment surgery, or GRS, procedure could be morally acceptable in certain extreme cases, if a medical probability exists that it will cure the patient's inner turmoil. This statement has not been proven as a fact, though. It also states that those who undergo sex change operations are unsuitable candidates for priesthood and religious life because of the mental instability. And finally, people who have undergone a sex change operation cannot enter into a valid marriage, either because they would be marrying someone of the same sex in the eyes of the church, or because their mental state casts doubt on their ability to make and uphold their marriage vows. In modern society, there are many examples of gender being an issue in modern-day schools, business places, places of work, etc. One story that's been circulating the news is about a school in Vancouver. They have instituted gender-neutral pronouns, pronounced Z, Zem, and Zer, spelled X-E, X-E-M, and X-Y-R. These pronouns are encouraged in schools as opposed to pronouns such as he, she, him, her, etc. They were approved by the Vancouver School Board in July of 2014 in order to better support transgendered students. Board member Mike Lombardi said, quote, "We are standing up for kids and making our schools safer and more inclusive." End quote. Here in the U.S., a school district in Lincoln, Nebraska has started using the phrase purple penguins to describe and to order around their children. For example, phrases such as boys and girls, you guys, ladies and gentlemen, etc. are no longer allowed to be used to get children's attention. Quote, "Create classroom names and then ask all of the purple penguins to meet on the rug. Always ask yourself, will this configuration create a gendered space? ? End quote. The document that was created by the school board warns against asking students to line up as boys or girls and suggests asking them to line up by whether they prefer skateboards or bikes, milk or juice, dogs or cats, summer or winter, etc. Furthermore, this school instructs teachers to interfere and interrupt if they ever hear a student talking about gender in terms of boys and girls so that the student can be reprimanded. The Lincoln, Nebraska Superintendent Steve Joel has declared that he is happy and pleased with these training documents. He says, quote, "We don't get involved with gender preferences. We're educating all kids and we can't be judgmental," end quote. This shows that gender neutrality is becoming very widespread and common even here in the United States. And it also is discriminatory, in this case, against people who prefer to use gender normal pronouns such as he or she, him or her, etc. You have to wonder if, like the superintendent said, if this is a good and progressive idea or an idea that is taking away the basic foundation of who we are as human beings.